Loving Jesus does not mean that you have to be broke for the rest of your life. Here's how to become successful without losing your soul. My name's Carver, and I've put thousands of hours into trying to figure out what Christian success looks like. And I'm so confident in what I'm about to teach you today that I've literally bet my entire life on it. So what are we going to start with? First, we got to figure out what worldly success is. So worldly, and when I say worldly, what I mean is what the common person in the world views success as. So if like you were to ask a random person on the street, what kind of thing are they looking for? And the answer is resource multiplication. What do I mean? If you were to think about anybody who's, quote, rich or wealthy, the first thing that they find is that they have a lot of stuff. Something that they have done has made it so that they can earn things. They have more things than the average person, right? Well, how do they do that? Well, they multiply their resources. So if you were to imagine that everybody starts with zero, they start at square one. Actually, we just start with one, right? And depending on how you use the one thing, you can multiply it. So people start with time, and then they use it to get money, right? And depending on how they use the money, they can buy more time, and they use that time to get more money. And it's an upward trajectory. So if you're really good at playing this game, you start with time. Everybody has time. It's a fixed amount, right? We all have the same amount of time. So how come somebody who's rich is able to get more than somebody else? Well, that's because they use their time better. They find ways to use their time that make them more resources. So you have time, and it allows you to get more money. You use the money to buy back your time, and then you use the time that you now have to get more money, and then you use that even larger amount of money to get more time. And that's how you get people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. They've had this time-money ratio go so far up on an upward trajectory that they're like unfathomable at resource multiplication. It just keeps on multiplying to the point where, I mean, Elon Musk is that trillionaire now. Like, how's that even possible? So if you're bad at this, you use your time and you have less money than you started. And then if you're okay, then you maintain. If you're kind of good, then you multiply a little bit, so probably double. But if you're obviously the best in the world, then you become like Elon Musk, and then you can have whatever you want. And people look at the results of the success, right? The fact that they can multiply resources, and they say, oh, that guy is rich. That guy is successful. And it's just because he used what little he had to make more. And he just kept doubling down and kept doubling down and kept doubling down. And the result was he multiplied his resources. And so we look at somebody who's, quote, successful, and they say, look at all this stuff. He has a lot of it. He must be successful. And it's just because he knows how to multiply. So how does this fit into Christian success? Well, I'm going to go through a scenario where there's 4 different guys. This is guy number 1. Guy number 1. And this is guy number 2. This is guy number 3. I like guy number 3. And I'm going to save the last guy for later. So the first guy, he's rich. Let's say he's really good at the worldly success, resource multiplication. He uses his time to get money. He uses his money to get back his time. And he is multiplied very, very well. But he only does it for himself. This is the kind of guy that, as long as the resources are multiplying, he's cool. He doesn't care about other people. He doesn't care about, being a good guy necessarily. He just wants to be rich. And so he's really good at making more money, and he'll do whatever it takes to do that. But he's the kind of guy that, he'll tell you whatever he needs to say to be able to get the thing from you. And then he'll kind of back off. It was never really about the compliment. It was never really about the gift. It was never really about you. It was really just he wanted something from you. And so he did what was required. So this guy only is really rich. He's really good at resource multiplication, but he only does it for himself. The second guy, he does it for others. This is the difference between selfish and selfless, right? This guy is really good at resource multiplication. He's good at flipping things. And he does it for other people, meaning he feeds the poor. He takes care of the widows. He puts clothes on people that are cold. He does things for other people, right? So does that look like Christian success? Not exactly. And it's because one of the prerequisites for Christian success is you have to be a Christian. Atheists can do this. There's a lot of atheists in the world that are feeding people. There's a lot of atheists in the world that are putting coats on people's backs, right? Just because you're a good guy does not mean you're a Christian. You have to accept Christ to be a Christian. So if you're not a Jesus follower, it doesn't matter if you're doing good stuff. You have to accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. So the third guy is a Christian, and he does things for God. And now you're probably thinking, this guy's rich. He's good at resource multiplication. He's feeding the poor. He's taking care of the widows. He's coating the cold. And he's doing it all for God. What a Christian man. He's accepted Christ as his Lord and Savior. Is this guy a good example of Christian success? And I would say, almost. What do you mean, almost? I would say almost. And the reason I would say almost is because if you spend your whole life winning at a game God never wanted you to play, you have still lost. Like, imagine that you get to the end of your life and you say, in fact, I'll just read the verse. Matthew 7:21 through 23. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, do we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoer. What does this mean? It means there's a fourth guy. Apparently he's got a tiny head. Guy number 4, he's good at resource multiplication. He's good at flipping his time into money, flipping his money into time. He feeds the poor. He does it for others. He coats the colds. He takes care of the widow. And he does it for God, but really, he does it from God. What does that mean? Look at the end of the verse in Matthew 7:21 through 23. It says, I never knew you. What does it take to know somebody? It takes a relationship. Meaning the difference between guy number 3 and guy number 4 is the first guy does good things and brings it to God and says, here you go, God. Did I not prophesy in your name? Did I not drive out demons? Did I not perform any miracles? Look at all the people that I've fed. Look at all the people that I've helped. Look at all the cold that I've coated. Look at all these things. I've done it all for you. And the fourth guy says, God, what do you want me to do? I will do it with every ounce of effort that I have. It's different. And the reason it's different is because of where the source is at. If you say, for God, guy number 3, what you're saying is, I will do what I think is best, and I will just make sure that I can tell God it was for him so that I can write off the fact that I wasn't listening to him. And I just make sure if I'm just a good enough person, and I just send that address letter to God, then maybe I'll be okay. But God says that he wants to know you. So if you think about doing the will of the Father, that means that God has an assignment for you. And you have to know what his voice sounds like, and you have to listen to him so that he can say, hey, I've made you for this plan and for this purpose, and I want you to go here, and I want you to do this thing. And then you say, sir, yes, sir, because you are my Father, and I trust you. And then you tack it with everything that you have. So let's write this down. What does Christian success. So if worldly success is resource multiplication, then Christian success is simply obedience to God. Now, Jesus exemplified this just straight out. It says in Philippians that he became a man and he humbled himself to the point of where he would even die on a cross so he could do the will of his Father. Now, are you living that kind of life? It's a tough life. And only you can answer that question. And I'm going to send you through a test to figure it out because not many of us know. So the test is, it's a priority test. So how do you know you're the fourth guy and the third guy? Because the distinction is very small. It's hard to know. So I'm going to send you through a test. The test is, let's say you're really good at resource multiplication. You can flip things. It's easy for you to, pick skills that have high leverage. If you put one thing in, you get 4 out. You're just good at this. Let's say you do everything for God, meaning when God says feed the poor, you feed the poor, right? How do you know that you're not doing it for yourself and that you're actually doing it for him? Let's say God asks you to sacrifice everything that you want to do something that does not look desirable at all. Do you do it? Like, let's say you want to be a successful businessman. And he says, nope, you're not going to do that. In fact, I want you to move to Africa and I want you to feed people. So, do you do it? Do you go? Even though that's like anti your dream. And if the answer is no, you care more about your dreams than you do about God. Straight up. If the answer is a yes, even if you're like, that sounds awful, which is probably the case. But if you said yes, that means you care more about God than your dreams. And I'm going to tell you a story because you're probably thinking, okay, so following God just means I never get what I want. No, that's not true. There's a story about a guy named Abraham in the Bible. And God asks, actually, let me give you some context. God sets up a promise for Abraham that he's going to have a son. All he wants is a son. And he has to wait years for this son. It's all he wants. And he has to wait years. And then he says, the promise is fulfilled. You have the son. And so he has the son. The son gets a little bit older. He's enjoying the promise. And then God's like, remember that promise that I gave you that you're going to have a son? I want you to go take that son. I want you to climb up a mountain and I want you to sacrifice him at an altar. Yes, kill him. Meaning the thing that you've been waiting for all this time, the thing that you're the most happy about, the thing that you value the most, I want you to give it to me. Sacrifice it to me. No context. It wasn't like, here's the reason. It was, just do it. Talk about testing your obedience to God. What could you love more than your own son? So then Abraham goes up the mountain. He's about to sacrifice the son. He puts the son on the altar and God stops him and says, no, don't sacrifice him. Take the lamb instead. Sacrifice the lamb. And so that's what happens. He switches it out. And then he flips the promise. And now his descendants are amongst all the stars. Like, how many stars are there in the sky? That's how many descendants Abraham has. What was God doing there? Did he actually want to kill Isaac for no reason? No. The whole point was, what do you value most? Do you love that more than you love me? Prove it. And then once he realized that Abraham did love God more than he loved Isaac, his own son, the thing he valued most outside of God, once he realized that, he said, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm going to give you everything that you need in abundance. What could be a better resource multiplication plan than to team up with the creator of the universe, the one who literally spit the cosmos into action because he wanted to? You want to talk about high leverage? Put one in, the thing you love most. Not only do you get it back, but you get it back more than you could have ever multiplied it yourself. You want to be a Christian success? You want to be good at resource multiplication? Give God what you value most, and he will give it back to you better than you could have ever done it yourself. What God can do with your obedience is way better than what you could have ever done with your intellect. I'm going to say it one more time and then I'm going to move on. What God can do with your obedience is way better than what God could do with your intellect. And that's because He's God. So we think that when we're obedient to God, we don't get what we want. But it's a lie. We get more of what we want. God just wants to know that you're putting Him first. So what are the steps to be obedient to God? It takes trust and it takes action. You need both. And why do I say that? Because we all know the types where they trust, but they take no action. What does that mean? If you trust, that means you share weight. I'll explain that in a second. Share weight means like we all have stuff that we care about. We have desires, goals, dreams, responsibilities, fears, worries. Life is heavy. That's why they say carrying the weight of the world on your back, right? When you trust somebody, you share that weight with them. It means you lean on them. You literally give them weight. And if they drop you, you cannot trust them. So when you trust, you share weight with God. Meaning, if you trust God, you say, you know what, God, I know you've got it handled. I know that you're the creator of the universe and that you're sovereign and that you're doing a good work in me and that whatever pain I'm going through is going to ultimately push me forward. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, because it produces perseverance. This is a good work. I trust you. That's what sharing the weight of your world means, okay? And then action means do it, which also means proof of the trust. Now, why do you need both? Well, if you act, meaning you do it, but you do not trust, it may look like you trust because you did the thing, but we all know that kid who just does what his father says because he's upset. He's like, he doesn't have another option. It's like like an upset employee. It's the best option you have, but you don't get it. So you walk around, you're like, oh, I gotta turn the other cheek because that's what God says. But you're not submitted mentally. Your heart's not submitted. You're just doing it because it's the best thing that you can do. You don't know what else to do. So that's how you become a angry Christian or a begrudging Christian or somebody who's got like trust issues when it comes to God. But you also can't trust without action because, one, there's no proof. Nobody knows that you trust God and you're supposed to be a light to the world. But two, how do you know? If you're like, God, I trust you. Do it. You know, you're a great God. And then he's like, cool, but I need you to do something. And you're like, no, you got it, God. You're the best. It's like, no, you're just lazy. Like, I'll be real clear with you. A lot of people think that Christianity is like, I will sacrifice everything to God, and that means I can just chill. You know, give me my daily bread. And it's like, no, you have to, is it sacrifice or is it strive? It's neither, and it's both. What do I mean? If we were to talk about sacrifice, what does sacrifice mean? It means let go. What does strive mean? It means hold on or move towards. Okay? So people in Christianity fall on either side of this. Action with no trust means you strive, but you don't sacrifice. You're not willing to let go of things. You're angry. You're bitter. You're holding on to the pain. So you're working hard, but you will not let go of the things that are not good for you, the things that God is asking you to give up, because you will not trust. You find everything in results. You find everything in outcomes. You're good at resource multiplication, and you might even do things for God, but you don't do things from God because you don't trust God. So you just do things that look like you're a good Christian, but you don't have that establishment of relationship with God to where if He asked you to do anything, you would say yes, because you only trust what you can measure. You only trust outcomes. You only trust metrics, and you only trust results. And as long as it's within your control, you can understand it. Understand it means to grasp. Understand it means that you can see it. You can see it means that you can believe it because you have a scientific viewpoint on what you're doing. And so when you strive, it's easy for you to look like you're making progress because it looks like proof of trust, but you actually have the biggest trust problem of all, and it's because you won't sacrifice your mind to God. But if you sacrifice without striving, it means that you just sit on your butt and you wait for God to do everything for you. And everybody knows the person that is in the house and the father's like, hey, I need you to do these things. And you're like, nah, you got it. I believe in you, Dad. You're just a lazy son. Straight up. So is it sacrifice or strive? It's both. You sacrifice, or you strive for the person that you're sacrificed to. Everybody sacrifices towards something. To say yes to one thing is to say no to another. To hold on to one thing is to have to let go of another. We have to decide, what is your priority? So we strive, meaning we work as hard as we can for God. We hold on to God. We let go of everything else. And anything that He says for us to do, we do it with everything that we have. That's how the Christian success works. You're obedient to God. He gives you a little bit, and you flip it. Okay, so in the story of the talents, there's a guy that comes in. He has 3 workers. The first worker is, he gives him five coins or money or whatever. The second one, he gives 2. The third guy, he gives 1, and he said it does this based on ability. So the first guy, just put this here, he gets 5, and he flips it to 10. Okay, the second guy gets 2, and he flips it to 4, and the third guy gets 1, and he flips it to 1. So when the master comes back, having given these guys authority, he doesn't tell them how to do it. He just says, here's a little bit, I'll be back. Meaning, the guy comes, he gives them authority, he says, get creative, do whatever you need to do. Just make sure that it's better, right? The first guy doubles it, the second guy doubles it, and the third guy doesn't do anything with it. So what do you think the master says? The master comes back and the first guy is like, great job, well done, my servant. The second guy is like, great job, well done, my servant. The third guy says, I know you're a hard man. Great way to start a conversation. And so I hid it. I didn't want to lose it. So the third guy acted out of fear. He did nothing. That's the same thing as having all of the trust, but none of the action. You did nothing. So obedience to God doesn't mean that you can stop trying. It means that when God hands you authority, because He's going to hand you authority, God hands authority. He doesn't just handle tasks. God will give authority. And then what do you do in response? Whatever you do in response is proof of your character. Because the first guy, these 2 guys, well done, my faithful servant, based on what they did with the resources that they have. They flipped it. This guy, lazy and wicked. That's what the Bible says. Because of the resource, he didn't flip. So what happened with the resources that they were given in life, by the time the master returned, determined their character. Now, does that mean the resources are their character? No, it means it's proof of their character. So if God gives you authority and you go negative, or you go to 0, or you maintain, or you multiply, or you really multiply, what does that mean about your character? If you really did it for the master, like you're not doing things for him, you're doing things from him. He says, here's this authority. I want you to flip these resources. And you know it's from him because you've done the priority test. If God asked you to sacrifice your son, you would, and then he doesn't make you. What does this say about you? It means you're either really bad with your resources, you're okay with your resources, or you're really good with your resources. And what does that say about your trust to God? Because what is another way of saying Christian success? The simple way of saying Christian success is obedience to God. But if I were to say it in a more rhetorical way, in a less like define the term way, what I would say is when God gives you an authority, you attack it with everything that you have. I don't know how to spell authority, apparently. Meaning, if he says, you go here, you do not question him. You don't say, I don't know. I think there's a better way. You don't think, man, that doesn't make any sense. I don't think I'm going to follow it. What you do is you say, yes, God, I trust you. And then you put every single ounce that you have into flipping the opportunity that he gave you. You use the resource multiplication skill on top of the authority that it gives you. So, can you be worldly success and a Christian success? Yes, because the world success is embedded if you do your job right. It doesn't mean being a Christian success does not mean you're broke. It doesn't mean that you're never being rich. It doesn't mean that you can't multiply your resources. It doesn't mean any of those things. And it also doesn't mean you can just sit on your butt and do nothing. It means that when God gives you authority, you attack it with every single thing that you can. In fact, probably the best example that I've seen of this, just off the top of my head, is Tim Tebow. Just being real clear with you. That dude flips everything. And he does it for God. It's very clear. So, what does this mean? Well, I will say this. I've bet my entire life on this. Literally. When I was 20 or so, I was living on my grandma's pull-out couch. In fact, she kicked me out because I was basically not doing well. They were telling me to look for a job, and I wasn't, and then I was doing stupid stuff, and so they kicked me out. And then my plan was I was going to sleep in my girlfriend at the time. Now she's my wife. I was going to sleep in her closet, and so, but her parents couldn't know, and so I was living in her closet until her parents left, and then I would come out and hang out. I was a high school dropout, and I had awful habits when it comes to, like, you know, drug type stuff and everything else that you can think of under the sun. I'd probably tried it. And I weighed 137. I weigh 175 now. And I had no plan. I wasn't doing well. And at some point, it came to the crossover point where I had to decide. Because things aren't going well. What am I going to do? And I decided to take God seriously. I decided to figure out what Christian success looked like. And now I am on my free time, for fun, making a video about what Christian success looks like. And right after this, I'm going to go hang out with my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old and my wife. And then tomorrow I'm going into church to serve in the kids ministry. I weigh 175. I have a great job. God flips things around. If he gives you a little bit and you trust him and take action with everything you have to try to steward it, he will give you more. And then he will give you more and your world will expand. And then he will give you more and your world will expand. I don't know what that looks like for you. Some people, it looks like they tackle the entire universe. They got like multi-million-dollar businesses and they are able to tackle a million things. Some people make sure that their family runs well. I don't think either one is more important than the other. I think it's just, it really comes down to when God gives you authority and he trusts you to do something, are you the well done, my good and faithful servant at every single step, or are you the wicked and lazy servant? Which one is it? Do you trust God and take action? Or do you not trust God and you sit around? That's it. And if you do that on a long enough time frame, you will be good at resource multiplication by default because you will have to be. Because when God asks you to do something, you say, yes, sir, and you try with everything that you have. So the resource multiplication or the worldly success is something that is embedded inside of Christian success if you take it seriously. So what do? I'll close with this. You ask God, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to figure out? What do you want me to take ownership over? What do you want me to fix? What do you want me to flip? And he'll give you something small. And if you don't know, like if you're having trouble figuring it out, figure out what to do with your time. Try to figure out a way that you can use time to multiply the other things that you're given. And I'll make a whole video on that if you want. But ask God, because he's given you a little bit. It might be your job, it might be your family, it might be your money, it might be your body, like your health, it might be your attention. Take one thing and say, if I were to do this well, could I multiply it? And then go from there. But do it for God. Make sure that when you ask God, you say, God, what do you want me to do next? Because that's how you found the resource multiplication on top of the relationship. Instead of trying to write it off as for God, even though it was always for yourself. Because it's a big deal. Who the letter is addressed to is a huge deal. So